Hi, my name's Troy. I have two great loves. The first is product development, making it better and easier for people to develop products they want quickly. The second is hiking, so I thought I'd combine the two and start a series called Flyking or Flow Hiking. I don't know which one's better. You decide, tell me in the comments. So in this series I want to show you just how, well, A, unfit I am, and B, I want to discuss how the concepts of flow are very similar to traveling along a trail, just like I am now. So, join me and let's discuss all the concepts and mathematics behind improving product development flow in your organizations while you watch me struggle up a hill. A bit about me and my background. I spent many years, back from the early 1990s in software development and product development, hardware and software. And in that time, I managed to, be promoted to level of incompetence of a VP. And when I became an executive in leadership, what I found was my peers were very discontent with the predictability of their teams and their organization as a whole. They really started to lose trust and faith in anyone's ability to tell them when anything will be done or started. So I had to work out better ways to explain to these executives why being predictable was so hard when we're starting to do really cool, hard, complex things. Well, this trail didn't start off with snow on it, but this snow certainly slowed down my pace. I went from going about 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour on the flat to probably going about 1 mile an hour because it's slippery. I'm old and I don't want to slip over and break a hip, which people of my age are prone to do. Also, recording this video while walking on snow is probably not advised either, but I'm going to do it. Now, one of the things that got and gets in the way of predictability, from my experience, was unforeseen obstacles, like snow, although I should have known. It's just sort of still winter here in the Pacific Northwest, so snow at these altitudes is quite to be expected. But still, when I worked out how long it was going to take me to make it to this lake I'm going for, I didn't anticipate so much snow, so I'm moving slower than expected. So this brings us to the first point of being predictable. You gotta have a goal. You gotta know where you want to get to. In this case, I'm heading up a trail to 3 lakes, Lake Oahe, Lake Talapas, and Lake Pratt. Will I make it? Well, I thought I would. I left early enough to get there in the daylight hours. I packed a light just in case, because I'm pretty unfit. And then I worked out what's the distance of the trail. I did some research. Other people had been this way before. So the distance and even trail conditions aren't really a mystery. Still, I had to work out how fast I was going to travel. I decided just to settle on roughly 2 miles an hour. So I set off. Well, the snow has gotten deeper, but evidence I'm heading in the right direction. Now, I roughly know this trail, but okay, past my first of 3 lakes, so no matter what happens today, I've achieved something. I made it to a lake. Now, this is what I wish we would do more in Agile. We talk about Agile and delivering in increments, but we really need to stop and celebrate when we ship something. And I know we have sprint demos, which are meant to be the first, hopefully not the first, but a time that stakeholders see incremental progress. But the team should also pat itself on the back because it was uphill and on snow. So I feel good. Even though I haven't made it to my ultimate goal and destination, I know I'm making progress. And I feel good about that. So let's keep going. So sometimes along our trail, there are potholes that go very, very deep. Now, in this case, I don't want to fall into those holes, because if I do, it's going to take me a while to get out. I may actually break my leg. So I move carefully through this zone. But in normal product development, there's always going to be unexpected potholes, delays, things that are harder than you expected, things that you never expected at all. And we need to deal with them when they come up. So I guess any agile process needs to, or when we're striving for predictability, needs to account that there are, for want of a more cliche term, unknown unknowns. And we're going to deal with them. Now, I've fallen in one of those holes before, so I know exactly what it feels like, and I don't want it to happen again. But this is where we need to leverage the experience of our teams and our people. Sometimes, some people, some developers, some product owners have a better intuition as to what can go wrong, that can be dangerous on a trail or in a product development process. And we need to listen to them and give them space to raise these concerns. Now, often, what I found, some of my executive peers would shout down anybody who brought up an issue which could jeopardize the project. Don't do that. Because if you don't listen and hear it, how would you know to step across the top hard snow or to go around that pothole so that you don't fall down and break your leg? So, part of being a good leader and creating a predictable organization is allowing people to express there's a problem. And the easier and the more you make it that people can express a problem, and the more you celebrate it and then start a vigorous discussion about how to avoid it, the more predictable your process will end up being. Success. This is my second deliverable. Lake Owali. Still frozen over. I'm not going to go down on the surface. That seems unwise. But what a beautiful walk. There's a lot of stuff I carried, which I probably don't need, but I carried anyway. I carried almost a full bottle of juice. Water. It's watered down. But here in the Pacific Northwest, you really don't need to carry water. You can carry a cup. At this time of year especially, there's so many lakes and streams that I could get water from anywhere. So I really don't know why I carry that. But that sort of is just like technical debt. We often carry things, or we build architecture that we may not need, but we take it anyway because it makes us feel comfortable and safe. I grew up in Australia where when you went hiking, there was much less water available than there is here in the Pacific Northwest. The USA. So I carry water. It's just a reflex. It's just a thing I do. I haven't evolved to not carry that. What else do I carry in my pack just in case things go wrong? And it's quite considerable. When I look at my pack, most of the stuff in there is sort of some safety equipment. I know my own ability, but just to be sure, I carry a lot of extra stuff. Now, the principle of you aren't going to need it only holds true why things are going well. Sometimes some equipment is needed when things go wrong, and it's a blurry line. Everyone carries more or less depending on their risk adversity and ability to judge whether things are going to get out of control or not. So I carry more than I need, and I think most product development teams carry a lot of architecture and a lot of feature bloat that they don't really need. So to move really faster, you can get rid of it, but it comes at a cost and a risk. So you've got to make your own judgment call about what to carry and what not. Here's what I carry. So I have my pack, of course, and I have a waterproof container for my phone, just in case it's raining heavily and I need it. I have something to start a small fire with, even though in the Pacific Northwest, nothing burns anyway, so the chance of me starting a fire is quite slim. I have a little Garmin inReach which can send out SOSs and send out text messages when I'm not in phone range. Bear spray, just in case. I have a head torch that's fully charged. I have a bug net because it's the Pacific Northwest. I have a spare battery pack just in case I need to recharge my phone. Safety emergency blanket just in case I get stuck and need a bit of extra warmth. I have a knife. I have another bear device which is a little alarm that makes a lot of noise. Toilet paper just in case, you never know. Water, I don't need to carry. Some trekking poles, which if you'd asked 15-year-old, 20-year-old Troy, would you ever trek with trekking poles, I would have laughed at you and called you old. Well, I'm now that person. I have my Gore-Tex jacket just in case it rains. I have an extra coat on now. What else do I have in my pack here? Probably not much else. I have a hat. I have food. I have a hat. What? Because of the sun. First aid kit, which I've never actually even used. I have micro spikes, which even in the snow I didn't actually wear them. So why do I carry them? I have an extra cloth. I don't know, just in case I need to stop an artery from bleeding or something like that. But you can see everything except the water, which I didn't need, and the scorched peanut bar for food. Everything else in here is a just in case. I wonder how much faster I could go if I just let go of some of my fears and left some of this at home. All right, so I'm at a decision point. I've reached another intersection, and I now get to choose whether I do the third lake or not. Now, the third lake is about the same distance again that I've just gone, and that's been about a 2-hour walk because the snow slowed me down. So I'm not quite going 2 miles per hour. The ground has been a bit more difficult. So I've got 2 lakes down. I've delivered 2 lakes out of the 3. And I think I might call that a day. What I might do is explore the trail going the other direction away from the lake, because I have done that walk from the other side but never made it this high up. So I think I might walk down until I get to the end of the snow and scope it out. So next time I can probably do a round trip. That way I can park the car at one end and walk somewhere else. So this is what you need to do with your product development. Again, what's allowed me to make this choice and not feel guilty about it? Well, the fact was, I enjoyed the first 2 lakes. I didn't sort of make the goal to get to all 3 lakes, win or lose. I sort of said, I'll see how I go. And as the ground proved harder, the conditions proved harder than I expected, I'm okay with just stopping at the 2, because I feel like I've succeeded in something for the day. It gets very steep from here, and I'm not really equipped to go over the steep snow. So really, it's unsafe for me to continue. There's more snow than I expected, which is okay. I enjoy a little bit of snow, but I'd have to put on my micro spikes, and there would be a lot of slipping and cursing, and my feet would get cold, and I don't want any of that. I want to call it a day and sort of start heading back soon. Yep, so glad I carried all that water. That really added to the enjoyment factor. Oops, it's not dry doing this crossing. I've changed my mind again. I've decided to keep going up towards the third lake. I probably won't make it. It's starting getting on the afternoon, and there's a lot of avalanche debris around. So this isn't a lesser used trail, and I'm kicking steps. Pretty tiring for me. So I'm going to go for until I hit 4 hours or 4 miles, whichever comes first. But I'm almost at 4 miles now. So I'm going to go to the top of the hill just to work the lungs a little bit more, and then turn around and retrace my steps. All right, I made my 4 miles. It's a pretty small day, but I know I can get back pretty easily and get back to the car before darkness falls, which is my goal. The snow in the afternoon here gets much softer, so I'm expecting to have to take my time over some of the snow bridges on the way back. But it's been quite enjoyable. And I've enjoyed that it's been going sun, snow, sun, snow, sun, snow, rain. So you got to be ready for all conditions. And you know, I've travelled in this sort of country before, so I'm quite comfortable with it. Not everyone would be. This probably shouldn't be anyone's first hike if they're not used to snow travel. They're not going to make good decisions about when to turn back. You know, I know that sort of skirting around underneath the steepest slope there, the cliff with lots of snow on top, I'm likely to get a lot of snow dropped on top of my head. So I avoid that. It's not worth the risk. These mountains and trails will always be here. The job is for me to be here with them. And I don't wish to take those sort of chances anymore. So I'm going to start heading back and think about sort of, as I'm heading downhill, so great it is to be able to spend a work day hiking and talking about flow with you all. And I guess I'll be able to buy more outdoor equipment because now I can write it off as a tax deduction, right? Because now I'm doing this for a job. Anyway, I'll see you soon. So there are my steps. They're, yeah, it's a lot of effort plugging the snow, getting your good foot grips. Oh, I did score something. Someone had lost a set of microspikes, really expensive microspikes. So I'm wearing them on one foot. And you might ask, well, why on one foot, Troy? Well, that means I got 1 foot for the snow where it's slippery and 1 foot for the rocks where it's not. And often in this mixed terrain, it's good to mix it up a bit. And I think that's what we need to realize, that there isn't one process which is good for everything. In this case, my snowshoe is good for when I'm actually, well, microspike is good for when I'm actually on the harder ice. But my other shoe, running shoe, is better for when I'm on the rocks and in the soft snow. It doesn't grip as much. So there isn't one process or one tool which works in all cases. Sometimes you need to mix and match, just like I have. Albeit lucky to find an expensive. Now I need someone to lose the right microspike, and then I'll have a full set. But until then, I'm going to just try and not fall into this deep hole here and make my way down the trail. Well, I'm a mile back, heading back down to the car, in the Alpine Lakes Wilderness. And I want to talk about sort of how I estimate my sort of pace here, and clothing to a degree. Now, heading uphill, I burn a lot more energy. I'm unfit, remember? So I can tend to wear lighter clothing when I'm going uphill, and I tend to move slower. That's just a fact of life. Just like doing hard stuff in product development. When you're doing hard stuff, you move slower, and you should do, because you're gaining altitude. But on the way back, I'm heading downhill. Now I'm A, going to move faster, and B, what's going to happen is I need to put on something warmer. I need to put on a thicker coat because I'm not burning as much energy. Now, one thing I see a lot of teams do in product development is, especially if we're tracking them on a burn down chart, is we make it look like there should be an even pace of delivery of doing stuff in a sprint. Now, in this case, I did the hard work at the beginning of the sprint, going uphill for the first 4 miles of this trail. Now coming down, I know all the conditions. I've done this stuff before, and I'm going to move faster, and I'm going to expend less energy. So I think the teams, it's good advice for product development as well. If you've got hard stuff in your sprint or in a product development phase, do it first. A, if you can't do it at all, it means you don't get a lot of work you have to throw away because you can't finish it. But B, it means that unforeseen problems, you have longer to react and change your course. Now, I turned around when I knew I could probably still make it back to the car in time. So I based my decision on, when's it going to be dark? I do not want to arrive after dark. I don't want to be doing this trail in the dark. So, my turnaround time was based on that. But I also knew that it wasn't going to take me as long heading back down the hill as it did going up. I think that's the right way of dealing with complex work. Do the hard stuff first, learn, and then not coast down, but understand that the more knowable stuff, the more known work that you know how to do and your team has done before, happens second. Well, cost-cutting measures. We only put one side of arm rail on our bridges here in the northwest. You hope for the best. So as we're coming to a close on this hike, or flow hiking, what I'm going to call it yet, let's just recap sort of some of the key messages I think I recollected along this trail. First of all, it wasn't about when I was going to get to the last lake, it was about when I left. Did I leave early enough to give myself enough time to get there and back in the daylight? And it turns out I didn't. Now, same thing with product development. We can deliver anything. Literally anything, as long as we start early enough. And it's not when will it be done, it's when did we start it. Now along the way, some surprises happened. Where I assumed I would do 2 miles an hour, I didn't quite get that. Why? Because there was a lot more snow on the trail than I anticipated. So I slowed down. I didn't try and rush it and break my leg, because that would have meant seeing no lakes. I slowed down. Thirdly, on the route, I looked for evidence I was heading in the right direction, because there's nothing worse than spending effort and going the wrong way. So I used signs, and I had some mapping software on my phone. I stopped occasionally and just checked where I was to make sure I was still on the right trail, because there's a lot of trails here in the Alpine Lakes Wilderness. I celebrated arriving at the first and second lake. I didn't get to the third one. I turned around. I decided it was too risky to proceed with, some large rivers that are sort of melting snow and some avalanches from the upper peaks there. It wasn't worth it for me. I'll come back in the summer and do this walk, and it'll be much easier, and I will make the last lake. I kept a sustainable pace the whole day, so I didn't rush over these things. A lot of that snow, there was a lot of sort of knee-deep snow holes that as you put your foot down, it broke through the top layer of snow. You certainly want to rush that. I, found a microspike. Sure, I had 2 in my backpack, but I found one, a left foot. So I put it on my left foot, which meant now I had extra traction when I needed it on the snow and ice. And my right foot, I had the right traction, because microspikes are terrible on rocks, when I needed to step on a rock. I did carry far too much in emergency equipment, or did I, right? I mean, every one of those pieces of safety equipment I have in my backpack would come in handy if something went wrong. But it didn't this time. But that's not something I'm going to take a chance on. I'm going to, in the product development, I'm going to take my time and build the architecture and check and test the work I'm doing. Even though I may not need it and may not find anything, it's still good insurance. So, all in all, hiking is a lot like product delivery. You just got to do it slowly. Build up the skills that you need to do it. Have okay equipment, just in case you need to adapt to changing weather conditions. More importantly, it should be enjoyable. And I don't see, especially a lot of companies I've consulted for, I see they've taken the fun out of product development. And that's sad, because it means that people don't want to do their best all the time. They just want to come to work, but more importantly, when they get to work, they just want to go home. And I sort of agree with them. because this isn't a bad office, is it? So, with that, I'm signing off for this episode. And the next one, if there is a next one, we will talk more about how to forecast and how to manage dependencies and risk management. So I'm going to try and find the perfect hike to teach those principles. With that, see you later. It's Troy Magennis, signing off.